Hi, we are at the Drop, dropping truth and bringing life. I'm John Arana, lead pastor of Oasis Church, and this is Karina San Martin,
Hey,
pastor
guys.
of all the ministries and services of the church. So we are here just pouring out our heart and
Yep.
just wanting to share with you some things that we have learned throughout our experience, and we really hope that it connects with you. It brings you
Yes.
life, and it just encourages you to just keep
Yeah.
pressing on with this awesome life that God's given us.
Yes, amen to that. We're excited to be here today. I'm excited.
So anyhow, we're going to talk a little bit about getting a closer look at the bride of Christ, which is the church.
Yeah, which is us.
And we really are trying, doing our best to break down some misconceptions
Yeah.
and some weird ideas about the church, and because the
Sure.
church, we're
Yeah.
the church.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the church, we're talking
Yeah.
about us.
We need to know who we are and how God sees us,
Exactly.
and because that's really important for us to be able to have a great journey with God.
Exactly. And so, there's a lot of misconception. People say, oh, you're sinners, or, you're never going to measure up, or you're no good. And it's
Yeah.
almost
Oof.
like our Christian life turns into this
s-
pursuit
We're
of
set
trying.
up to fail.
Yeah, yeah. And we're trying to become this perfect
Yeah,
person.
right, which is not
No.
what not the expectation from God
Exactly.
to us.
Exactly.
Anyways. Yeah,
Yeah.
When we were just kind of discussing and prepping for today, I was like, man, I really like these aspects of how God sees us, the church, because it really speaks to our identity.
Yeah.
Our identity in God, our identity through how God sees us, and I think that is huge.
Yeah.
Because that tells us who we are, how
Exactly.
we should be,
Yeah.
and what God really thinks about
Yeah.
us.
And I think if we really focus on these things, it will help us to understand who we are, like
Yeah.
you're saying. But
Yeah.
also, I think it'll serve us well to heal us,
Yeah.
to change us, and to
Yes.
set us free.
Oh yeah, for
You know.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think also even a little deeper and beyond that, it helps me to see others in the right way that they
Oh,
should
that's
be
good.
seen.
Yeah, I like that.
Not necessarily in exactly what I see, like,
Yeah.
well, this is the real,
Yeah.
but it helps me to say, well, if God sees me this way,
That's good.
then I should try to look at this person and see them the way God sees them.
I really like that because it removes that religious judgmental mentality that I have to size everybody up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is this guy for real? Is he
Yeah.
gonna tell the truth? Is he
Yeah.
the guy character? And we
Yeah.
start looking at the outward
Yeah.
behavior.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. So listen up, guys.
Here we go.
If you're not driving, take some notes. If you're driving, please don't take notes.
So how does God look at us?
Yeah.
That's the big question. What does the bride of Christ, the church, us, look like to God?
Yeah.
Not to us, but to God. This is God's perspective, God's opinion.
Who
So
we
we're
are.
going to go ahead and start with number
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And the number one is this: the church is Christ in another form.
Okay.
So this means that we are equal corporately.
Yeah.
Okay, not only individually, but primarily corporately, we are equal in nature. In we spiritually speaking, we have God's DNA, and that can easily correlate to our kids.
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. I definitely see that, and I think most of our listeners or watchers know, but this is my dad, and so I definitely see that with me and him and mom.
Yeah.
There's just things that you capture from your parents because they're your parents,
Yeah.
because you share the DNA.
Exactly.
And there's things that I get from you guys that you never taught me to be or do, but I
Right.
just was.
Picked it up.
Yeah,
It's just in you.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool because I do believe that we can be that same way with God.
Yeah.
We do have his DNA, we do have his nature, and
Exactly.
I think that that's something that we all need to realize.
Yeah.
That we do have the nature of God in
That's
us.
in us.
Yeah.
It's in us. And I think that kind of reminds me of, when God put Adam to sleep
Yeah.
before he took Eve out of him. He cut him on the side,
Yeah.
and he bled, and out of there, he took out a rib and created
Eve.
his counterpart.
Yeah, right.
And so it kind of reminds me of when Jesus is on the cross,
Yeah.
and they put a spears right through his ribs,
Oh, wow, yeah.
and he bleeds out
awesome.
as symbolic of, I'm giving birth to my counterpart. I'm giving birth to my Eve. I'm giving. So here's my point is that if we are Christ in another form, then how could we be inferior?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We can't be inferior.
No, definitely not.
If
Yeah.
we are his counterpart,
Yeah. No, 100%.
then how does that strike you?
Yeah. Well, I think it speaks really strongly to it really comes against what I think the common rhetoric is around Christianity, which is, oh, you're not worthy.
Uh-huh.
You're so almost like you're like this small little thing, and God is this huge, magnificent being, up there somewhere in the sky on his big throne, with his crown and his
looking
his,
down
his
on you.
scepter,
Yeah.
and even things like when people say like, oh, the Lord must be punishing me,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
like and I think that it counteracts
Yeah.
that really strong false mentality
exactly.
of, oh, we're just not like. You got to understand your place, because without God, we really
Of
are
course.
not much.
Sure, but we're not without
But
him.
we're not without God,
Exactly.
and we don't have to crawl out of this hole to be worthy.
And some people are even afraid to have these kind of thoughts that we're having.
Yeah.
Some people are like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You guys are borderline sacrilegious here.
Oh, man.
But watch this scripture.
Yeah.
This scripture in 2 Peter chapter 1 verse 4 says this, by which we have been by which it has been given to us exceedingly great and precious promises,
Yeah.
that through these promises you may be partakers of the divine nature,
Wow, that's amazing.
having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust.
Wow.
That's a powerful scripture.
Yeah.
Because that is
Super.
saying that we partake of the nature of God.
Yeah. That to me, like, that blows my mind, because
That's a mind blower.
I think that we struggle, with really seeing ourselves that way.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know I struggle with that.
Sure.
I struggle, especially in the hard moments of life when you need a supernatural something, where you're like, there's just nothing that's working.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we put so much on God, like,
Yeah.
God, I need you to come through.
Sure.
And which there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
But
of
at the
course.
same time, it's almost like, I feel like God sometimes is saying to us, like, hey, I've already given you my nature.
Look what I put in you.
Yeah, like you literally have the ability inside of you, because we are sharing in the divine nature.
And that ability comes from him.
Yeah, you have what you need.
Yeah.
And that empowers us
Yeah.
to be more than what we see.
Exactly,
We are sometimes.
And the thing I think where people we all get confused here is that people say, well, if I shared the nature of God,
Right.
why do I mess up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Why do I mess
That's
up
a good
if I have
point.
the nature of God?
Yeah.
But here's
Why
the
am I
thing.
not perfect like Jesus?
Yeah. Why am I not doing everything perfectly?
Yeah. Why can't I walk on water?
But here's the thing: sharing the nature of God doesn't imply that you are never going to fail, that you're
Right.
never going to make a mistake.
Yeah.
What it implies is that within you is the drive, the desire
Yeah.
to walk in a way that is pleasing to God.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so it sets us free from that mentality of
Yeah.
perfection in the sense of human behavior,
Yeah.
because obviously we want to do what's pleasing to God.
Of course.
But we also, and so that's part of that nature.
Yeah.
But then we're also going to fall short because we're still in this human nature.
We're still in human. Yes.
So
right.
we have that challenge.
Yeah.
And I think that that has helped me to
That's good.
understand,
Yeah.
yeah, I do have the nature of God working in me.
Yeah.
And that's why for 47 years, I
Mm-hmm.
have a desire to run to God and to do what's pleasing to Him.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you explained that, because I think a lot of us, at least I can speak from myself, and but I think a lot of times when we find ourselves like in a moment of failure,
Yeah.
like, oh man, I should have done this,
Sure.
but I didn't do that.
Right.
You do feel like you came short.
Yeah.
Like you fell short.
Exactly.
But there is still that desire inside of me to make it right,
Yeah.
because if I didn't have that God nature in me, I wouldn't even care.
Yeah,
I'd be like, I fell
exactly.
short, who cares?
Yeah.
Oh, I messed up, no big deal.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I think that's a really good explanation of showing the balance of like, hey, you don't have to be perfect, you're not going to be perfect, don't put that
Exactly.
expectation
That's
on
right.
yourself.
Exactly.
But when you mess up, when you slip up, if you fall short, how do you handle that?
Exactly. And again, one illustration that I love to use when I teach this is to bring out a cookie, and tell people, here's a
I
cookie.
love cookies. Is it
Yeah.
chocolate chip?
And you're a great baker, by the way.
I make great chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah. And I love when you bake because it's my favorite.
It brings
you know?
happiness, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
exactly. So I tell people, look, it's like a cookie.
Yeah.
I'm going to take 1/4 of this cookie
Okay.
and I'm going to separate it from the 3/4.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's this little piece of cookie versus this big piece of cookie. So I ask people, does this little cookie have the same ingredients as this big cookie? And they have to say yes.
Yeah, of course.
It has flour, has sugar, has chocolate chips, whatever it may be that you put in there
Salt,
is
butter.
your secret ingredient. But it's all in there.
Yeah.
Maybe not to the
That's a
degree,
great
maybe not to the
illustration.
extent,
Right.
but it's all there. And so this little piece, which could be us,
Yeah.
we share in the same ingredients
Right.
than God has because we have His DNA.
That's a great
And that
illustration. Yeah.
needs to sink into our hearts
Yeah.
to set us free.
Yeah. And I know that there's been a lot of people who've even just struggled with like keeping good mental health.
Yeah.
And I think that
Yeah.
that also speaks this who God says we are
Yeah.
to me
Yeah.
speaks to my mental health.
Yeah.
Like because things can take you down.
Yeah.
But if you know who you are, you know how God sees you, you
Yeah.
know what Jesus says about you.
Yeah.
Even if you are struggling, which it's okay to struggle.
Sure.
It's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
But you have something to be that rock.
Exactly.
That brings you back to that center that says, okay, hold on, I might feel this way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is how
Sure.
valuable God says I am.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that's so powerful because it's like this yacht that has this anchor, and the storm comes and
Yeah.
you could see that yacht moving around,
Right.
swaying back and forth
Yeah.
and going like, oh
the
my
effects
gosh.
of the storm.
Yeah, you feel the effect,
Right.
but man, you're anchored.
Yeah, that's good.
And you know
That's good.
that you might be shaken,
Yeah.
you might be affected in some way,
Right.
but you're anchored,
You have your anchor.
and you
That's
know that you're standing firm.
good. I love that.
So it's kind of cool.
I love that.
So the first point was the
now
church.
you made me want a cookie, man. With my
Well, if you
coffee
do,
over here.
if you do, make sure you save some for me.
Okay.
Okay. So the one of the points here that the church is Christ in another form is that we can't be inferior.
No, we cannot.
We can't be inferior. Christ is not going to marry a bride that's inferior to him. And that's why he came, he died.
Yeah.
That's why he raised us up
Yeah.
to sit on the right hand of the Father. In other words, he came to save us and restore us so that he can elevate us
Yeah.
to be able to be his counterpart.
Yeah.
So
That's so good.
I love these issues. And
Yeah.
well, how about the
That's really
second one?
good.
The second one is, and again, this is God's opinion,
Right.
Not mine,
Yeah.
or yours.
Mhm.
But it says that the church embodies the groom. And 1 Corinthians 12:12 says this: "For as the body is one and has many members, but all the members of that one body, being many, are one body."
One body.
so also is Christ. So, in other words, we are one.
Yeah.
We embody him.
Right.
We show him. We reflect him.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think that is something that we don't give enough value to in the church. Because sometimes in the church, you know, we're always picking at people, always picking at what they're not doing right.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like
Unfortunately.
I just heard a message that just kind of tore me up. Whoopee! I went to church.
Man, I feel great. Can't wait for my week.
I mean, it's not that we should never hear a message that challenges
course,
us and
right.
confronts us,
Right.
but it's like all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. I think that this is also really cool to me to highlight the value of every moving part
Yeah.
that makes up the body of Christ.
Yeah,
You know, kind of like
exactly.
what you were saying, you know, and that we all have a part to play
Yeah.
in this grand expression between us and God. You know, like
Exactly.
we have our own individual connection with God. You know,
Right.
I have my me and God time,
Yeah.
you know, and I think that to me, this also speaks so strongly to, I think, what the church is going through right now with the body being dismembered
Yeah.
almost. And like people saying,
Yeah.
I don't need to be a part of a body.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay home
Yeah.
and just only watch online
Yeah,
and
yeah.
never be really connected in relationship, which there's nothing wrong with watching online. But
Right.
if that's like your lifestyle, you're not really connected.
No, it can't be your main thing.
You know, I think that there's like this thing right now that's going on. There's
Yeah.
like this change, but also, you know, my point is that there's value
Yeah.
to everybody being a part of
Absolutely.
the body, because
Absolutely.
everybody brings something different to the family.
And there's no way that you or me
Mm-hmm.
as individuals can be the full expression of God.
Yeah.
We're just too limited for that.
Yeah.
And so it requires all of us
Yeah.
to be the full expression
That's
of God.
good. Yeah.
And so that is why so important. I don't know, that came out very good English, but it doesn't matter.
yeah, no,
But that's
it
why
did.
it's so important for all of us to come together.
Yeah.
To come together and share our lives, express our thoughts and ideas, and
Yeah.
function together
Yeah.
in cooperation.
Because every body part, even if you think about like your physical body, you know, like every body part
Yeah.
needs the other parts. You know, like my eyes need, well, my eye needs my other eye, but my
Yeah.
eyes need my ears, and,
Sure.
and I need my nose,
Exactly.
and my left arm needs my
And
right
yeah,
arm, and
yeah.
you know, it's like you can't get anything done with just one part of the body.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's cool that he puts so much weight on
Yeah.
this whole body of
And,
Christ.
and that's
thing.
how important each individual is.
Yeah.
You
yeah.
know, and a lot of
It's pretty
people
cool.
make the mistake, or it's the wrong assumption to think, oh, the pastor's more important than
Yeah.
me.
Right. Yeah.
Not
That's
really.
Not true.
Not really.
Yeah.
The pastor has a function.
Right.
You know, the singer has another function.
Mm-hmm.
The greeters have another function. But we're all just as valuable.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know, just because we have a
100%.
different function
Yeah.
doesn't mean we're more important.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's one big mistake
Yeah.
that needs to change
Yeah.
in the church.
And-
We are all as valuable.
Yeah, and I think again, this speaks to identity.
Yeah.
You know, because it's saying like no matter what part you play,
Yeah.
you are valuable. You are important. You are needed. You're
Yeah.
a part of a bigger picture. You know,
Right.
you're not just only a part of your own picture.
Sure.
You know, you have your own picture, your own life, but there's more to you. There's more to
Absolutely.
me.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know why you were talking. I just thought of an example, which is kind of silly, but I think it makes a point. You know, when people take pictures
Mm-hmm.
of each other or whatever, you know, basically they're taking a picture of this,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
mainly.
Chest up.
Right,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, it's kind
Depending on who it is. Everyone has their preference. They're like,
Yeah.
full body, please. And some are like, no, belly up, chest up, you know, hide the belly, just chest up.
Right, right. So you go like, okay, this seems to be the most important thing.
Uh-huh,
Okay.
yeah.
But
The
think
face.
about it. If you lose your index finger,
Uh-huh.
nobody takes a picture of their index finger.
Yeah.
Nobody says, hey, you know, put your index finger there. We want to
Yeah.
take a picture of it.
Yeah.
But think about it. If you lose your index finger,
Mm-hmm.
oh man,
You're in trouble.
life gets very complicated.
Yeah.
Try to button a button
Yeah.
without your index finger.
Yeah.
You know, try to tie your shoes without your index finger.
Mm-hmm. You're gonna be getting some slip-ons.
Try to even cut your meat without your index
Yeah.
finger. You know, life becomes
Yeah.
very difficult
Right.
without this member that just doesn't seem to be that important.
But it is.
But
Yeah.
if you're not functioning, oh
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
you know, it becomes very critical.
Yeah.
But this reminds me of Karen and I,
Yeah.
you know, married for a long time, and you know, when we married, obviously opposites attract,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually they attack.
Oh yeah. Happens to
because,
all of us.
because of the differences, you know,
Sure.
and so we got to learn to complement
Compliment.
each other instead of competing.
And enjoy
But-
those differences.
Yeah, and embrace them. Embrace them. One of these days we'll do a podcast with Karen and talk about
Yes, that'd be
marriage and all this
awesome.
stuff. But anyhow, after 42 years of marriage and 45 that we've known each other, I can honestly say I'm a little bit more like her
Yeah.
today than I
Yeah.
was when I first married her, and she's a little bit more like me.
Oh sure.
You know, and it's like, because as you spend time together, you embody each other.
Oh yeah.
And you begin to
100%.
reflect each other.
Oh yeah, I definitely see that with me and my husband, with Sergio. Like
Yeah.
when we first got married, he was such a pack, like just messes everywhere. I mean, it was nuts. And I've talked a little bit about that. But now
He's come a long way.
Man, now he's on me. He's like, why are your shoes here? Can you put your shoes in the closet, please? Don't leave your shoes on my side of the bed. And I'm like, oh yes, Dad. It brings me flashbacks.
Yeah. Oh.
And now I have learned to be like, you know what? It's okay to relax, because that's his natural tendency. Like, let's just do nothing.
Right.
And before I'd be like, no, we need, like, what are we doing? What are our plans? Where are we going? What are we doing? Saturday's free. Let's fill it up.
Yeah,
You know, and he's like, so that's rubbed off on me.
Yeah,
And I'm like, oh
exactly.
man, let's just do nothing today. And that in the past for me would have been
Yeah.
like, what are you doing?
You're wasting
You
your
are
time.
such a waste today, you know. But you need that time, and
Yeah.
so this is so true. This happens in this happens with us and God
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
You know, as you walk through that journey
Yeah.
and become more like Him.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that God says,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to embody me.
Yeah,
You know, and
That's
when you
very
think
cool.
about it, here's me.
yeah,
And you think, here's this little me in comparison to the whole universe, and yet he's called me to, and he said, you're going to embody me.
yeah,
You're going to show me.
yeah.
You know, and
That's
not
awesome.
by thumping people with the head over the Bible, you
Yeah.
know, or not by condemning people, but just simply showing the love and the character
Yeah.
of God.
That's
But
awesome.
anyhow,
I love
our
that.
our time is just, whew, just evaporated.
Oh man, it's been good. It's been
But
good.
here we are at the drop,
Yes.
dropping truth and bringing life. And we
Another
hope
week.
that this is going to encourage you. This is going to show you how valuable you are, how much God thinks about
Yes.
you, and
100%.
how we need to change the way we see ourselves and the way
Yeah.
we see the church.
Yeah.
Because God's opinion of us
Yeah.
is so high
Yeah.
that it's a mind blower.
Yeah, it is. And I just want to say that I encourage you to, you know, if you've struggled with identity and how you see yourself, and don't allow other people to form your identity for you. You
That's
know,
right.
the only thing that should help you form your identity is how God sees you and what He says about you. And so I just encourage you to just dive into that even this week and just say, God, help me see me the way you see me.
That's right.
And He will, because He
Yeah.
loves you. He
That's
loves you
right.
so much. And I think that when we have a good, strong identity,
Yeah.
it really begins to change how we live our lives
Yeah.
and how we see ourselves,
Absolutely.
how we process situations, and our value. So I just encourage you guys to take time this week to do
Yeah.
that.
So here we are at the drop, dropping truth and bringing life.
Yes.
And I hope you receive this, and it's going to just really, lift your spirit up. And we're going to continue this series in the next episode, because
Yeah.
what God says about us It's just so
Yeah,
good.
it gets even better.
Yeah. So until the next one, we'll see you then, dropping truth and bringing life.